Hi, I'm Priscilla, but people call me Silla, and I am a certified step parent coach. Essentially, that means I help stepmoms that feel like they're in turmoil to feel better about their blended family and feel confident in their role. I am also a public speaker, and I go on podcasts. And I am also a mental health first aider for England. So essentially, anyone that is on the brink of an emotional or a mental breakdown, I can speak to that, help them, and direct them to get help before it gets a bit peak. And that is what I do. Professionally, but humanly, as an everyday person. I am a mum to 4 kids and I home educate 3 of them. And I am a stepmom to 2 kids, 2 teens actually. So they are my first experience of parenting any teenagers. And yeah, I'm married. I've been married for 8 years, been with him for 9 years. So I've been in this blended family setup for close to 10 years now, and it's been interesting.
Stick a pin, because we'll get into that. But what I have been trying to do of late is I'm a film buff. I love watching TV, movies and stuff. Been watching a bout of it recently. Naughty. But please tell me, what's your favorite film or TV show and why?
Oh my gosh, that is so hard. Do you know what? I'm just going to tell you what's coming to mind right now. And it's How to Get Away with Murder or Law and Order, SUV. And yeah, it's quite gruesome.
So you're into series. Do you binge watch them?
I have, and I need to stop that. It's just, I'm annoyed how available things are now. But yes, I do binge watch.
I've got too many favorites. That's what, like, really,
Too hard.
It is too hard.
Oh, I'll tell you what my favorite films are though.
Yeah.
It's Pretty Woman or Crybaby.
Pretty Woman's a good one.
Yeah. I don't know if anyone knows Crybaby.
I feel like I've heard of it.
Yeah.
I may have watched it because I've watched so many films and forget the names of them.
Yeah.
But I will let you know. I'm going to watch it and I'll let you know if I've seen it before. But okay, the first one you said was Pretty Woman. I used to love that film. I watched it over and over and over again. And it was that era. I've said this before. One of my favorite films is Coming to America. So it's around that same sort of era when you memorize the script like as if you're playing the parts. So yeah, Pretty Woman, I can buy with that one. And we said Law and Order and...
How to Get Away with Murder.
I started watching How to Get Away with Murder, but I didn't quite get into Law and Order just yet. I can say that I did enjoy, as a series, The Godfathers of Harlem. Godfather of Harlem.
My husband has been watching that.
But Bumpy
no,
Johnson, that was a brilliant series. And the Wu-Tang, I can't remember what it's called, the Wu-Tang Saga. See, I'm going to stop. That's really bad.
Friends.
Yeah, I love it. Anyway, we were talking about you mentioned the work that you do. And a bit of a brief of your background. What is it like for you being in a blended family? I know it's a very broad kind of question.
It is, because there's stages. So in the beginning, it was deception beyond belief. I thought it was going to be perfect Brady Bunch type stuff. And I was like, yeah, I'm down. Like, I'm going to follow my husband's lead. I'm also going to heal wounds and all of that good stuff. And then I went to the second stage of absolute despair. Like, this is absolute trash. I can't believe I found myself here. And the only way out is to leave my marriage, I guess, because I'm going to be trapped in this hot mess for a long time. And now, currently, it's absolutely fine. I mean, it's not perfect. And there's still quite a lot of mess. But as it pertains to me, it's easy breezy.
I can see how that could be because it's 8 years in. I mean, the transitions.
Go on then.
I'm thinking about the deception.
Okay.
And
It's my deception, by the way. No one fed me a lie. I could see, but I chose not to see. I deceived myself 100%, and I suffered the consequences of that. But by then it was too late.
What was your partner? Well, he's your husband now, but at the time being your partner.
I could see, but I chose to see what I wanted to see. So I essentially suffered the consequences of my own deception of what things were like.
And where was your partner? Well, your husband now, but at the time he was your partner or boyfriend. I don't. Where was he at with filling
Yeah,
you
I
in
mean,
on?
so this is something that I didn't factor in myself. But for my husband, he's been in the kind of chaos of it before he even knew I was alive, right? The boys were like 5 and 6 at the time. So he'd been 5 years in the mess. And so he had become accustomed to it. He knew how to live in it. Do you understand? For me, this is a whole new world. Do you understand? So when I'm coming into it, he's kind of like looking at me like I'm going to handle it like him. But no, it's different for me. I'm a stepmom. I'm a woman. I've come from peace. I've come from controlling everything as a single mum. And I'm now in a fully formed big family with 3 kids with a lot of conflict and a lot of opinions and a lot of ideas. And so, yeah, my husband, I guess, was naive in thinking that I was good, but I was not. Okay.
Essentially, the concept. At what point did you view or classify yourself as a stepmom? Because that's quite a strong title
Yeah.
to get involved with, and I suppose it's like maybe easier for a stepdad to
Yeah.
be considered than perhaps a stepmom. Some
Yeah.
women might feel a bit more attached to their child than
Yeah.
perhaps a dad would.
Absolutely. I think for a long
No
time.
disrespect to any dads that do feel heavily attached to their children, by the way. I don't want to
For a long time, I didn't classify myself as a stepmom because they didn't live with me. And so I'm not doing what mothers do, right? And then it moved on to perhaps I am a stepmom, but a part-time stepmom. And then it moved to a place of what does a stepmom actually do? I don't know. And then when I found myself in that place, it was like, okay, now I need to look for help so someone can help me work it out, because I cannot parent the way I parent my daughter. I do not have the opportunity to be present in the way that I'm present for my daughter. And this is not just about ego, pride, or offenses. I mean, literally, they don't live with me. So if they're hurt, worried, if they stuck with homework, or they're not here, I don't know. I don't know what's going on. Do you understand? So it's like, I know what a mum is, and I can't function in the way I know a mum does. And so if I'm a stepmom, what does that mean? That's a role that has a question mark, and I guess I need to find an answer to that. And so then I went online and started looking for what other people said it was, and it was just a hot mess.
I was going to say, was that helpful?
No, just loads of people moaning, angry, venting. It was like an echo chamber. And it was like people are coming with their dilemmas, their worries, their problems, and like, fine, okay, cool. But then other people were just like, I relate, I relate, I relate. All right, so what's the solution? Do you understand? And it started to feel pretty desperate for me, because I was thinking, I think it's great to have spaces where you can vent and relate and feel heard and seen and have a community and all that good stuff. But do we want to live here? Do we want to park and die here? I didn't. And so I started the Stepmums Club on Instagram, because Facebook wasn't my place anyway. So I just, started a new page on Instagram, and I started to ask the questions that felt like elephants in the room, in hopes that someone would answer and I would relate. So I would ask questions like, okay, so if the birth mom doesn't like you and refuses to talk to you, which was my situation, what would one do? And then I kind of just sat back and would see if people would, have an answer to that. And then some people would say, oh yeah, we tried this and we tried that. And I was like, okay, cool. Do I feel comfortable trying these things? And then oftentimes, I would share how I was feeling, and then I would see if anyone would kind of relate. And then it got to a place where people stopped answering my questions, but started asking me questions. And I think people did that because I was brave enough to talk about it out loud, like
Yeah,
not
yeah.
behind, closed Facebook groups.
I've
You
never
could
seen
see
that
my
before. Yeah,
face.
yeah, 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 yeah.
You could see my face, and it was like, oh my gosh, like loads of people used to say, loads of stepmoms used to say, oh, what if the birth mom sees what you're doing?
Wow.
And it was like, yeah, what
What
if she
if-
does?
and-
Maybe it's going to force some communication, huh?
Gosh, was that your kind of in?
No, it wasn't. I was like, I just wanted to be happy. I just wanted peace. The peace that I used to know, I wanted it to come back. I was just quite sad.
I suppose it could have been, social media can easily be used as like a venting space or a space for a release, and like you said, to hopefully have some sort of feedback or validity or some answers to your questions. I want to take it back to the birth mum sort of thing. That kind of made my heart jump out of my body, because usually when you hear birth mum, you're thinking of situations where children have given up for
Adopted,
care or
yeah.
adoption.
I know
or,
it's offensive.
So I don't know if it's offensive, but it's the truth of what it is. And it made me think as well about the stepmom thing. I suppose that's perhaps some reasons why there's levels of uncomfortability for me personally, because I have what is called a stepdad, and I don't like referring to him as a stepdad because he's my dad. Do you get what I mean? But for context of clarity,
Yeah.
it has to be said. So
Exactly.
I suppose it's just
That's
how
all it is.
and it's conversations are needed to be able to have an understanding of it, because your family is your family, I suppose.
And in actual life, I would never ever refer to my son's mums as birth
Mum,
mums.
but
They're
for the
birth
sake
mums.
of context,
But for you to understand what I'm saying and for there to be separation of roles, I need to say these titles, because they don't call me stepmom. They don't introduce me as stepmom. They introduce me as auntie.
Of course, yeah.
And that's what it is.
Yeah.
But if I now, said that online, people are going to be very confused. Do you
Yeah.
understand? And also, when I'm speaking about, or when the Stepmums Club was geared towards my personal experiences, there's just some things that I don't want to explain. Do you understand? So I'm going to give it to you plain, and we're gonna start from there, not from filling all of your curiosities before we can then progress the conversation.
Did you get? I'm asking a silly question, I think, but did you get much backlash from birth mums?
Absolutely. I was told to shut it down. Absolutely. And, out of respect for them, and I'm going to say them because it wasn't both of them, it was actually one of them, right? But if I'm talking about two, you don't know which one it is, right? And out of respect for my husband, and also just out of respect for things that have come and gone, and we're not in that space anymore. I'm not going to go into detail, but I will say that when I tell you that stepmoms already feel a lack of control, but to be directly controlled was something that I was not going to allow to happen. So when I was told to shut it down, or I should have asked for permission, or there's certain things that I can talk about and not talk about, that's when that's when I started to feel the wall on my back. Yeah. So I was getting pushed against the wall, but I wasn't quite sure. Like I didn't know that. But when that happened, that's when I felt the wall against my back, and I had to decide: am I going to push back, or I'm going to stay put?
Stand firm, yeah.
But to me, I'm just like, I'm an adult, I'm a wife, I'm a mum, I'm a stepmom, and I'm growing this platform not to shame anyone, but to help myself. And if healthy communication won't come outside of this space, then no, I'm not going to shut it down. I'm going to stay with it. And I did. And I mean, if my husband is not telling me to shut it down,
Then
it's
who?
impossible for
Yeah.
anybody else to.
I think as well, it's interesting because that concept, if you've got nothing to be ashamed of, then why would you have a problem with it? And it's not necessarily, yes, where you may be sharing some of your own personal experiences, but the mere fact that there are other women that feel as isolated, or, not necessarily validated, or have the opportunity to have answers to their questions being met, then why would someone try to prevent that from happening for families? Do you see what I mean? So,
but that's what it is. It's not about other people. It's about
people can't see
yourself.
beyond their own self. So
This is how it's making me feel. I
Yeah.
don't like it. Shut it down.
Which
Do you
is fair
understand?
enough. It's understandable.
And it is fair enough. But this is how I feel, and so I'm going to
Yes.
keep it up. And then it's a war of wills, right? So what is best is that we see what it is. This is the reality of it. You face your front, I face my front, and we deal. Do you understand? And if we don't want to deal with it in our individual corners of life, then we come together and we work it out. If you don't want to work it out, the default option is deal with it.
100%. I think ultimately when we're thinking about the children first, then that should make it easier. But when we're thinking about ourselves first, that's where the challenge is perhaps.
And I mean that in itself is quite interesting, because if I don't think of myself first, the children will suffer.
No, yes, no. I suppose there is that dynamic, and I don't mean it in that way. I mean it in terms of being able to take it all holistically. Because when we're solely only thinking about how this makes me feel and I don't like it, then we're not considering our children and what could be better for them. Unless I'm like aware of how I feel, question how I feel about it, potentially think, well, if I feel this way about this, how does she feel about that?
Oh my gosh.
And then
It's a
also
simple
be like,
thought.
do you see what I mean? So in that respect, I'm talking about, we have to consider ourselves first and foremost always, because if we don't, then our children suffer. But there are areas where we need to consider the children. Okay, us beefing, how is that impacting?
Right.
And so that's the perspective I was coming from. So I get what you're saying, but it
Absolutely.
wasn't going to be.
Yeah. And also it's a thing of what's wrong?
Yeah, what's the problem?
What is actually the problem? Okay, because this guy has moved on, introduced maybe the 15th woman in your child's life, or maybe it's the first woman, but the woman's here. Now, Mark, what is wrong?
Yeah.
You're gonna often find it's nothing. Nothing's actually wrong. It's a war of wills. It's a war of ego. It's a pride. It's a removal of control that does not feel nice. It doesn't feel good. It's in some cases definitely not mine. It's he's moved on. He really doesn't love me anymore. Do you understand?
Yeah.
It's a lot of different things, but it seldom has anything to do with the child's safety, welfare, or the other family.
But sometimes it is though, because as casually and blasé we can be about, okay, is it because it's 15th person or the second? All of that has an impact on the children, isn't it? And I suppose male or female, when we're single parents dating, we should have enough discernment to be mindful.
We should, but we don't always. So then what?
I guess that's down to us and who we chose to have children with, and we have to deal with the consequences
and
of
this
that.
is what I'm saying. You have to mark the reality and deal with it. So if you've had a child with an absolute wayward man,
then you only have yourself
and
to be accountable.
he has introduced 15 women and a prostitute to the child. Now he's decided that he's introduced the 18th woman. Okay, This is the key question. Does it now become permissible for that mum to say, oh, no contact with your child now?
Yeah.
Does it ever become permissible outside of abuse?
No.
It doesn't.
You may not like it.
You don't like it.
But you can't really do anything about it.
But you can't do anything about it. You can't do anything about it. Yeah. So it's a thing of...
Equally as he can't do anything if the mother has...
Absolutely. So now... what do we do when we face the reality? I'm going to chat to my child now. Daddy, has introduced you to a fair few women. And I want you to understand that you as a child can easily get attached. And if you feel like this next woman, if she goes, you're going to feel hurt. Maybe these are a few practical things you can do to make sure that you don't feel the way you felt the last time, darling, okay? Because daddy loves you. But daddy has relationships, okay? And this is what it looks like for daddy, okay? So let's sit down and work out how you can feel good about this woman, okay? And what things you should be looking for that you might want to share with mummy this time. Do you understand? That's it. Send your child.
I wish it was that simple though, because it's not always that simple.
No, it is.
It can be.
In theory, it is that simple.
Yeah.
Practically, it's not, but that's a mother's work. That's a father's work. That's
and
a
that's
parent's
growth.
work. That's
yeah.
it.
Just growing and learning.
Being a parent in any circumstance is absolutely hard. Even with the mum,
And
the
parents
dad,
together,
and all the
yeah,
siblings
yeah,
are together,
yeah,
it's still
yeah.
hard because you're raising a whole human. You're raising a whole human that, okay, so I'm a Christian, and I'm going to have to say the scripture because to me, it makes perfect sense when we're looking at kids. The Bible says, I believe in Proverbs, that we have to bind the folly in a child's heart. Children are foolish. And I'm not saying that as an insult. I'm saying it because they don't know nothing. They're born into this world. They don't know the dangers. They don't have any foresight. They can't measure consequences. They can't measure impact. They rely on their parents to develop all of these skills. To develop these skills within our children, to know that don't walk down that alleyway at midnight. You're likely going to get yourself into trouble. To teach all of our kids this, as well as understanding they have a will within them. The minute they're born, you see children taking spoons from you. I'm going to put on my shoes. They have a will within them. So it's about not stifling that will, but honing that
Nurturing
will,
it, yeah.
nurturing that will, and developing these skills. Is that easy?
Nope. It's not even easy for us doing it for ourselves.
Come on.
Let alone for a child.
Everyone's in therapy.
Yeah.
Yeah, come on.
Real
Let's
talk.
think about it, yeah? For the most perfect setup, even the most obedient, submissive child is still hard. It's still hard. That child's going to get hurt. That child's going to suffer consequences. That child's going to come across other people that don't want well for that child. Do you understand? There's evil all around us. Do you get it? But we have to work as parents to ready them for this big, bad world. And sometimes the bad of the world is in our homes.
Yes.
We,
Sometimes, yes.
we just
Sometimes
got to
it's
get on with
ourselves
it.
if we haven't done the work. So yeah.
We just got to work it out and get on with it. There's no point of looking upon a child and saying, oh, how innocent, I'm going to be a shield for that child. No, teach that child to be a shield. That's
Definitely.
it.
So on that note, can you probably mentioned one of them before, but can you share like some of the common challenges that stepmoms face? And how does your coaching help address them?
So feeling displaced, like not knowing where you fit in the family, not knowing or understanding your role, how to participate, the stigma of the role. So the stigma usually is kind of like shame, a bit.
Shame?
Yeah, absolutely. So, for example, if the stereotype more commonly is Lady Jermaine from Cinderella's stepmom.
Do you remember their name?
Oh yeah, I live this. I just
know Cinderella's mum.
Yeah,
Stepmom.
so Cinderella's stepmom, we know her to be wicked. She's devious, deceitful, all that stuff, yeah? And then you become a stepmom yourself, and you almost feel that everybody is looking at you like you're Lady Jermaine. They don't know your name. They don't know your role. They don't know your impact. They don't know your wants, your desires for your family. They just know that you're a stepmom, and they're like, oh. So you feel shame. You feel embarrassed. You feel that way. It's almost like the self-fulfilling prophecy. Although you are fighting tooth and nail to not fulfill that prophecy, you don't want to be seen as Lady Jermaine. And there comes another problem, overcompensating. So now your stepchild has thrown something at your head and called you the B word. You can't shout at that stepchild. You can't send that stepchild to their room because look at her, that wicked stepmom. That's another issue. And you got some mean kids. You've got mean stepkids. Kids that are struggling with loyalty points, and this goes back to that scripture that I said, binding up the folly in a child's heart. It's not necessarily that the child has looked upon you and said, I'm going to be a devil. That child is experiencing big feelings. That child
loss,
is very upset, feeling grief, maybe just feeling uncomfortable. You're in my house, and I didn't choose you. I didn't choose when, I didn't choose how, and here I am just being forced into this blended family. And then they start throwing things at you, because they don't know how to control their feelings. They don't even know what that feeling is, But the stepmom's just looking at the child thinking, okay, I'm now gonna have to suck it up. But no, actually that child is being cruel. And the dad and every other adult needs to tell that child, this behavior is mean. Let me help you work it out. Let me help you channel your frustrations or whatever feelings you're going through in a more constructive way.
But I would imagine that'd be very challenging, because I feel like sometimes, this may be a bit sexist maybe, but dads overcompensate a bit when it comes to their child. So I can't imagine, I don't know, maybe I'm just being making assumptions, but I can't imagine a dad necessarily chastising or correcting his child to have respect for the mother.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean? I find that a bit more challenging. I think mums were more likely to do that with...
No, dads do it too.
Oh, is it? Okay, good, cool.
Yeah, dads do it too. And I think you've got like three sets. You've got the dads who are very supportive of the women that they've dragged into this mess.
Yeah.
And they just want everyone to get along. They're looking at the stepmom as the child's mum. And they want that child to
They might be a bit deluded.
I wouldn't say deluded. I think
ambitious.
The dad has his position as dad.
Fair enough.
And he has a woman, and the child has their position as child.
Of course.
The dad does not register his woman as stepmom. You're a part of the unit that makes the full nuclear family.
Yeah, especially if you've had children as well.
Exactly.
Between you.
And then the dad's going to be like, yeah, that's my child now. Do you understand? Yeah, you don't have to vocalize it and upset the other parent. But in terms of values and thoughts and beliefs within the house, that's what the dad's looking like. So he's going to work it out any which way he can so that the woman's happy and the child's happy. But then you've got the passive dads. It's like, I don't really know what to do. It'll work itself out. And he really does nothing. He just lets the woman spiral, lets the child spiral, and he's just passive. And then you've got the overcompensating ones, the ones that feel guilty. I brought you into this broken home. I'm going to buy you everything. You just threw a brick at your stepmom's head. I understand. Let's go and eat your favorite food. Because it's my fault that you're violent. It's my fault that you're lashing out. It's my fault that you're crying.
What would you advise a stepmom in that situation and how to go about dealing with?
Yeah, you need to talk to your partner, and you need to for the person that's already in it, it's never too late to go and talk to your partner. But before you even get there, you said, I fancy this man and he's got 5 kids. Listen to me. On date night, you sit that man down and you say, listen, yeah, it's the kind of mother I want to be. This is the kind of mum that I don't want to be. Are you down? Let him make an informed decision before he brings you around his kids. You two work it out. Sit down and decide, okay, if I enter into these kids' lives, what kind of mum do I want to be? What kind of human do I want to be? Do I want to be the sister? Do I want to be the auntie? Do I want to be the best friend? Or do I want to be the person that does the school drop-offs and the bedtimes and cleaning up vomit when the child gets sick? Do I want to be that person? Do you work it out? It's going to save you a lot of grief ahead of time. So then when that child is moving mad, it's a thing of, I said that I want to be the parent, so I'm going to go ahead and discipline that child. I'm going to be the one.
And we've had that discussion before, so he's fully aware.
Or I'm going to present it to the child's mum. Listen, this is what so-and-so did today. I really think that, would you be okay talking to them about it before I do? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or you might be that person who's, I'm no parent at all. I'm just your dad's partner, which I don't think in any case anyone should come into a blended family with that mindset. But there's some people who feel that way. I'm just a partner. I got nothing to do with any of this. If a child starts acting out, you talking to your partner or your husband, I don't know what you expect from it because you're not really in it. You have the liberty to just walk out of the house.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not ideal. It's not ideal. And I would never, ever advise anybody to have a mindset of, I'm not really in this. You've got to be in this.
But setting clear boundaries. Yeah.
When you pick your lane, everyone knows what to expect from you.
And when you make your decision, no one's surprised.
Yeah.
Hey family, we hope you're enjoying the show. If you want to stay up to date with all things Black British Parent, we've got the perfect way for you to do just that. Join our mailing list and be the first to know about new episodes, exciting news and upcoming events.
It's super easy to sign up. Just head over to our website and into your email. Don't miss out on the latest from Black British Parent. Join our community today. Now, back to the show.
So how would you assist stepmoms in establishing healthy relationships with their stepchildren?
So, in the very first place, when you meet the stepchild, I really think it's important to play. For a child to see your personality, for you to see that child's personality, and just really be easy breezy about it. It doesn't have to be about who you are to that child and who that child is to you. It's just about meeting that person and that person meeting you. After that, I would say it's about, so if you decided, okay, we're going to get married or whatnot, I'm definitely going to be in this child's life. Invite that child in it, not to make decisions, but to let the child know that this is what it's going to start to look like. How do you feel? If it means you have to postpone the wedding, if it means that child doesn't participate in the wedding, or that child is fully immersed in that wedding, you can make them decisions based on how that child is feeling, or you can get the child's support outside of yourselves if needs be. I think trying to establish a communication or type relationship with the child's mum would be great. But I know some birth mums, sometimes they're not ready to meet the step parent, and that's fine and that's absolutely fair. But I think when they are, definitely avail yourself. There's no time for I'm nervous, I'm not sure, and I'm offended because she did this to my partner. No, stop all of that. You want a healthy relationship with your stepchild, you go and make the effort with the child's mother, just for the child's sake, if anything. And I think when the option to not meet the mum is there, you never say anything disrespectful about the child's parents or their family. And I think when conflict happens, make sure that you are not participating in it where a child is privy to your participation. Because whether a child displays loyalty bonds or not, when conflict happens, them loyalty bonds, they're going to kick in. The child will even be taken back. They'll be shocked. Yeah. Dad and mum could be arguing and stepmom's like, no, this is out of order, I don't like it. That child's going to be looking at you like, why get involved? Like, don't talk, like, I don't like your strong feelings, do you understand? So I think, making sure that the stepmom is watching them little eyes on her and not participating in things that could be done in the bedroom when the kids are asleep. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Off the top of my head, those are the things that I would say that would set a good foundation for a healthy relationship with your stepkids.
Which leads me into, I think you mentioned before about labels in terms of names and titles. We briefly spoke about it before recording, the concept of what stepchildren should call their step parent. Should it be mum, dad, auntie or uncle? Please share your views and perspectives on that.
So I think it's all very dependent on culture, race, demographics. It's dependent on a fair few things, right? But all in all, I would say mums and dads should be very confident that their names is not what makes them irreplaceable.
That's the birth mums and dads?
Yes, the birth dad and the birth mum. Yep. That is their title as mum is an absolute honoured title. Because I know, people have conversations like, oh, that's my father. He doesn't have the right to be called dad. Do you understand? But dad, daddy, mummy, mother, however you want to call it, that is an honoured title. But it's not the worth of you. And so I think once birth mum and birth dad get comfortable with that, I'm then going to say, if a child wants to call their step parents mum or dad, I really don't think that there's anything wrong with it. And I'm saying this to those who would have active. So for example, if a child calls their stepmom mum and they obviously live with their mum or have an active mum who's not a resident parent, this I believe should be absolutely fine, okay? But if it causes such a ruckus, something that doesn't seem to be settling anytime soon, maybe after months and years, I don't think it's bad to say to that child, it's causing issues. And I know this is what you desire, but I think a great idea is if you make up a name that is special between you and stepmom. And I not in my experience, not within the last 8 years, have I ever heard a child be upset with that.
Okay. I'm just thinking, what if a child just really defiant? It's like, no, it's my mum.
Then what are you going to do?
We can't argue.
Then pick your battles.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's for the birth parent to just pick your battles. If the child says no, what are you going to do? If a child says, I'm not going to eat, or are you going to lay them down and open their mouths and stuff it? What can you do? What can you do?
And you want to raise children that can think for themselves to somewhat degree, but also within
guidelines,
reason.
And the fact of the matter is, like I said at the beginning, I don't see anything wrong with it. And also, who's it killing? Who is it killing?
Someone's ego, but yeah.
Let it die.
What advice do you have? That leads me to my next question, actually, quite well. What advice do you have for stepmoms dealing with conflicts between their partner and ex-spouse regarding co-parenting responsibilities?
Stay out of it. No. Okay. So, if you have a relationship with the mum, 100%, if you want to participate in working things out, you can absolutely do that. But just remember, that child has a mum and a dad. The non-resident parent allows your spouse or your partner to sleep well at night, okay? So that means that child is okay, okay? And also, you are the bonus parent. Primarily, you
I like
are
that,
there.
actually, the bonus parent.
You're not the parent. You're just an addition. You make your addition beautiful. Make it wholesome. Make it, oh, mommy and daddy are angry. Shall I take child for an ice cream? Go do that. Do you understand? But primarily, I would say, remember your place, and your place is to support your partner. Not in tomfoolery. Support your partner as in, okay, he's now vexed. He needs to calm down off his anger. Be that person for him. Don't be like, oh my gosh, yeah, she was this, and be fueling it for him. Help him calm down. Help him bring the equilibrium back. Do you understand? Or, for example, maybe the non-resident partner has messed up the schedule, and like your partner is saying, oh, but I have to be at this meeting, or offer, if you can, to fill in that gap where something has met. Be a support. Be a part of the support system for your partner. That is how you can help in conflict. Do you understand? But yeah, honestly, in my personal opinion, if you can stay out of it, my goodness, just stay out of it.
It can get messy.
It will. It will get messy. And when your peace is robbed, and when you feel burnt out, and when you feel unheard, and when you feel displaced, that's a consequence of your action, not the fighting parents.
It's interesting because obviously I say obviously a lot, with Black British culture, we're not necessarily as open or talking about our things as perhaps our cousins across the seas in America. And we see a lot of viral videos going around. I don't know if they're all satire, but sometimes there are situations that perhaps would be relatable to many, even here, where the stepmom or dad, by the birth dad's partner, would take issue with the expenditure of the biological dad with his child. And I find that quite an interesting dynamic. How does one get to that point where, does that ever become an issue for a stepmom? Should that be an issue for a stepmom? How much a birth dad is spending financially on his children?
Yeah, 100%. If the man is financing his home that he lives in, and he's making a family with a woman that he chose and brought into it, she is his financial responsibility also. As a family, they ought to be making plans. As a family, they ought to be growing. In order to do that, it takes money. If you're blowing it all on your child without any consideration to me, your partner that you chose, how does that work? I don't think it's wrong for a stepmom to be concerned about how much her partner is spending on his child if it concerns her. If it concerns her, it concerns her, and that's it.
And that's perhaps some of the early conversations you can have in the beginning of where your boundaries lay.
Absolutely, but even if you
financially,
don't, even if you find yourself and you're like, okay, I'm 4 years in and I'm actually irritated by this. He doesn't need a fifth pair of trainers. You didn't need to take him aboard and all of that good stuff. I think she's well within, and I think, if this person was not a step parent and was just the mum, no one's going to say anything. This is not a distinction of roles. It's just normal planning.
Yeah.
Just normal planning. But what are you doing? Talk to me about it. Let's make decisions together. We are a couple. We are a partnership. We have to financially plan together. We have financial goals together. And then if they have kids as well that live in that house, you have to take that into consideration. I don't think it should ever be a thing of, okay, you bought my stepchild trainers, but you didn't buy ours baby trainers. I don't think it should ever be a thing of that. If you as a stepmom can afford to get your child trainers and you want to as well, go ahead. It's not a competition. But I think if, your partner has given their child outside of the house, the stepchild, like 5 bills for Christmas and didn't talk to his partner about it, about the stepmom about it, I think you're taking the absolute mick. And she's well within her rights to say that.
We'll talk. Again, if it was married couple with all their children being biologically theirs, that conversation would have
absolutely. You
been
think
had
I could
beforehand.
So my daughter, she's going to turn 13, my eldest. If I gave her 5 bills and my husband found out, he'll be looking at me like, are you
what
okay?
What are you doing? Are you all right? Yeah. We'll talk. So, are there any specific tools or resources that you can recommend for stepmoms looking to enhance their parenting communication in a blended family sort of setting?
Tools without somebody, no. Getting into community, healthy
Such
community.
as the Stepmums Club?
Yeah. Getting a coach or therapy that also specialize in blended families. So not just any therapist. Ones that, have a lot of experience with blended families. You need to invest in that because, you can find the same generic quotes that every other human in this world does on the internet, through podcasts, through books, and all of that good stuff. But for you, the individual, to work out your specific things, you need to find a way to invest in coaching, therapy, or getting yourself in a community where there's progressive
conversations,
goals,
dialogues,
conversations, targets, things like this. Yeah.
Okay. And can you share a success story or transformation from one of your coaching clients?
Wow.
It doesn't have to be like a finite thing, just like the progression maybe as well.
I guess. So there was one stepmom, and she and the birth mum did not get along. And then there was one time she, through things that I've coached her through, she decided to send a text message to the birth mum and show her compassion. Because a lot of the time, stepmoms feel like because they're being attacked, they should have a hard heart, right? It's like, okay, you don't like me and I'm not gonna let you anywhere near me. I'll never forgive you and you're just, on my X list, yeah? And they seldom ever sit down. And this is the same with the reverse, but stepmoms seldom ever sit down and think about how hard it is for the birth mom actually, how hard it is for her to relinquish the control that she once had, or for the dynamics of her relationship with her co-parent to change because there's another adult to consider. You know, it's hard for birth mums. And also, in the same way that stepmoms are labeled wicked or evil, every birth mum seems to be a narcissist, and that's just not
Or
the
jealous
case.
or envious or-
jealous,
yeah, bitter.
and that's just not the case, right? And yeah, so she sent a message to the birth mom, and she was just like, if there's anything that I've ever done, I'm sorry. I acknowledge that this could be hard for you and X, Y, and Z. And then she got an essay. She got an essay of this woman outpouring.
Goodness.
She was so, I wouldn't say apologetic, but she was explaining why she had been so mean and her feelings and all her difficulties. And she was just pouring it all out. And my client screenshotted everything and sent it to me. And she was like, I had no idea she felt this way, and now I feel bad. And I was like, well, don't feel bad. Just know that she's human just like you, and maybe you guys will begin to start looking at each other as humans with flaws that need support, that need time, and that need help every now and again. And as far as I know, everything has been quite peaceable since.
That's amazing and that's beautiful. And I really thank you for allowing that to happen for that family. I wish more of our families could experience that.
Yeah.
You know, that reflection. You make me cry. I'm not going to do that on camera. How important is self-care for stepmoms, and what kind of self-care practices do you commonly recommend to other stepmoms or your clients?
Self-care for the human is very, very necessary. To optimize good mental health, you need 1 day to yourself a week, minimum. And in that day, you have to, I would say you want to disengage from any regular things. So it's not now the kids have gone, you're now going to catch up on cleaning. Stop that. Yeah, it's about doing something that you like or something that you need to do for your well-being. So for example, going to see a friend, or sitting down in silence, or sleeping. Go to sleep. Eat something nutritious, exercise, journaling, just anything that you know is good for you, or something that you need to do that is good for you, that you wouldn't otherwise have time to do. That one minimum day a week where you are helping yourself, re-energize, think, decompress. You have to use that time to do something you wouldn't otherwise have time to do. And even if that means just sitting down and staring at the wall, do that. That will be good for you.
Yeah, it is good. What kinds of things do you think birth dads can do to help support their partners, potential stepmoms of their children?
Don't be passive. You bring in a new somebody in a co-parenting relationship that might be peaceful or might be full of conflict. Just understand it's going to require work. The stepmom is not a slot piece. There is not a space in the puzzle for her. There's not. You're going to have to carve one out. And that means shifting, moving things, throwing some things away to make that space that fits her into that picture, right? And that requires work. That requires actual physical, mental, and emotional work. Also, be a shield for her. She may have things that come her way from extended family, from, the ex's family, from the children, that she probably would not feel comfortable combating herself. You have to be the person that stands in the gap for her. And then when she finds her footing, you can move, and then she can be that person for herself. Do you understand? And also, I think when you are inviting a new somebody into, a family that once was, that is now going to become a blended family, you need to think, what can I do to make us as a partnership impenetrable? And when you work that out, you then think of how us as a couple face the children and be all that they need, and then the rest of the world after that.
That's a brilliant answer.
Thank you.
Brilliant one. All your answers have been brilliant. All your perspectives are amazing and very much, required, because I think, like I said, up until coming across your page, I've always been a bit dubious about the stepmom kind of perspective, obviously. But naturally.
Naturally.
And that's coming from someone that's coming from a blended family situation myself. And
Same.
fortunately, my mum, I'm being a bit personal here, fortunately my mum didn't have a problem with my dads. I've got 2 dads. I laughed at it, okay. I shouldn't really say that, should I? But both my dads having relationships, my mum had no problems with whoever, how many they have ever been, with me having relationships with them. So it's ironic, it's weird that I would perhaps think that way. But at the same time, I also know that should that ever had happened, that I would be okay with it, because I know my children. Do you see what I mean? I know I put them first on that kind of perspective, I suppose. No judgment to anyone else who has challenges with it, but, it's a reality in this day and age. You're likely to meet someone who has children already.
Yep.
It's a rarity for someone who doesn't. Not that it doesn't happen, but we got to find out a way to deal with it. And I think for generations...
Get ready for it.
Well, this is it, but it's not nothing that's new. It's been happening for generations.
Yeah.
So I'd like to think that by now we're able to evolve in some kind of way, but too much expectations, I suppose.
Yep.
How do you approach building a supportive community for stepmums to be able to connect and share experiences and learn from each other?
Honestly speaking, I think that's really, really hard, because the best way to start building a community is to make it private. Yep. But I don't.
Why is that?
Because people feel safe when no one's watching. People feel safe when they know that they're not going to get backlash or judged, or when the person that they're venting about has no chance of seeing it. And also, we're talking to strangers, and you don't know who those strangers are, who they're related to, right? And you don't want to be the reason. You don't want to secure the idea that you're the reason why things are bad in your blended family, because people already think that you are the reason.
And then there's evidence of it.
And then there's evidence of it, because did you have to speak about it? Yes, that person did, but to everybody else, you didn't have to, right? Good. But honestly, that doesn't change much in my experience. It doesn't change much. It can probably, you can probably have the space to learn some things and then bring it outside. But I think to confront something like for all within a community, it needs to be publicly. And it just takes a few brave people. And then for people to join that community, you have to want it. If you want community, you're gonna come. If your community sits in the fire, but you want and you feel like you need and you've identified that need for the community, you're gonna walk into that fire and sit there with them. And I think, especially as women of color, there's people, there's organizations, there's communities who have fought very hard things in relation to our race. And it's all been fire. All of it's been fire and attacks. But when you feel the oppression that community are fighting for, it's better to be with them than to be on your own, because everybody is weaker on their own.
100%. Yeah. I find it the contrast in terms of having a private group, which is necessary. At the same time, I can see why having a kind of open group is necessary, because then birth parents get to learn the
I'm
reality.
telling you that, and right. So you asked me a success story with the stepmom, but there's also been success stories with the birth mums.
And I say that with my hand on my heart because, again, thanks to your age, I learned a lot.
Yeah,
Not that
right.
I've had to have that experience yet as such, but
you get to see
Yeah.
on the other side, right? And that was my whole thing about bridging the gap between stepmom and birth mom, because if we don't really talk about what the stepmom is facing candidly, the birth mom's never gonna know how, until unless she becomes one herself, right? And even if she then has a stepdad for her child, it's still different. Do you get it? So I'm talking about these things, and I've had loads of birth moms come to me and say, "Oh, do you know what? I let the stepmom know it's okay. Calm down. It's going to be okay." And everything changed. Do you understand? Or it's been a thing of, "Oh yeah, I've gone ahead and I've said to my ex, I want to meet your partner. I'm ready to meet your partner." And it's gone well. Or just really simple things like, I no longer feel to cuss out the stepmom. Because she's probably going through stuff. Me too, I'm going through stuff, and I've decided to pick my battles.
yeah.
That's it. And to me, that makes, I guess, in the beginning, me exposing my feelings and my vulnerabilities around the role worth it, because I've now come to a place, although I coach, and not just coach because I'm just calling myself coach, I actually trained to become a coach. But now that I coach and it's less about me and about the other people, which I'm really happy about, I know that it was all worth something, because there has been a bridge. Not everyone can locate that bridge, but there's a bridge there. And it just means that us having supported our pages, or you having supported my page since 2018, I can sit
Why
here.
do you know that? But go on.
Because I remember because it was small at once. It was small once upon a time. So I remember the ones that have been there in the whole 6-7 years, do you know what I mean? But now that we can sit here and actually meet face to face and have a conversation, because you've seen content that's made you comfortable enough to say, all right, you are no longer representing an uncomfortable conversation, but one that, brings curiosity, and I want to bring that to other people. And that's what it is. That's what confrontation is. It's about
conflict as well, and pushing those boundaries in conversations, the
absolutely
uncomfortable
ones, and see what we can see what we can learn. Like, what is that saying? It's about chewing the meat and spitting out the bones. Yeah, not everything that someone hears about what I say, they're gonna be like, oh yeah, like I agree with everything. Some of it you're gonna want to throw it in the bin, and that's
of course,
fine.
and everyone's situation is unique and different.
Absolutely. But the next stepmom that you meet, you're gonna look at her with human eyes. You're not gonna look at her as Lady Jermaine. Maybe.
You have to think, yes, Cinderella. We'll talk. So, I think you might have answered this before, but maybe just to be a bit more specific. And what are some of the misconceptions you often experience or encounter with stepmotherhood? And how do you work towards dispelling those myths, as it were, through your coaching?
So it's the same stuff that you get from the media. Oh, she's wicked. She's after the money. She's trying to separate the dad from the child. Just the normal stuff that comes to mind when you say stepmom. And what I say, and this is maybe the crux of my coaching, it's about getting clarity on who you say you are. Yes, there's the generic role of stepmom, but what does that mean to you? Let's now work it out. So,
and why does it mean that to you?
Yeah. To be honest, if you don't know why it means that to you, that that's not a pressing issue, because culture, where we live, and all these other influences make up what we think. Just like in the beginning of this conversation, you know, a child calling an adult by their first name is not wildly disrespectful,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
to me,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
is, because of my culture and my
Yeah.
background, and to the next person, it's not. But generally, it's not to anybody, right? So,
Which is okay, by the way.
yeah, which is okay. So we're now working things out. So it's questions like, what are your family values? What are your personal values? What is it that you look for in
And
a
that's the point of
partner?
why I'm saying, why are they that way? So that not necessarily to question in terms of hold yourself to some negative account, but if it's not working for you, how you think about it, then when we look at where those thoughts come from, then we can kind of make adjustments and
I
figure it out
guess
in
so.
some way.
Or it's just about, how do we align with that person? And if it's not aligning, what
That
do we
too.
do
Yeah,
now?
yeah.
Do
What's
we
what?
jump ship? Do you understand? And I think as well, when we're now in the dating space of, you know, being with people that have children, like, I'm such a big advocate for laying your cards on the table. When I mean raw, lay it down. I remember when I met my husband, I was like, I'm too old to be somebody's girlfriend. Okay, I want to get married within this time frame. People were coming at me like, you forced him to get married. Did I? Did I
No.
force that man to
He's
marry
a big
me?
ass grown man. He
Do you
made his own
understand what I'm
decision.
saying? He could
Yeah.
have run.
Sorry, I didn't mean to disrespect the husband. Big ass, you know.
But he is. And he could have run, because there's loads of women who have laid down their cards and said, okay, I want a baby in 6 months. And the man's gone, you're mad,
Yeah.
and ran away.
Yeah.
Because men will take and men will drop. And that's the fact of the matter. It's what women need to be about that. When you have entered into a relationship and it didn't work out, the next time, it's not about approaching it like you haven't had experience. You should know what you want by now. And if you don't, within my coaching, we're going to work out what it is that you want. Like, fine, not everybody takes the time to think about it or work it through. But this is what I'm saying, with therapy or with coaching, we're going to sit down and want to work out, what is it that you want? Okay, how can you tell it to that person? And if the consequence is yay or nay, how are you going to feel, and how can you prepare for that?
One last question before we wrap up. Is there room for the Stepmums Club coaching to coach birth mums?
Oh yeah, I do coach birth mums. I
That's
remember,
beautiful.
like, before I got ill.
I just assumed it was just stepmums,
No,
but that's
'cause
wonderful.
again, the slogan was bridging the gap between
Yeah,
birth mum
I remember.
and stepmom.
Yeah.
So before I got ill and I disappeared offline, I had a membership space, which was a closed Facebook group. And I remember there was 2 birth mums in there, and they paid that monthly subscription to be a part of a group that was predominantly filled with step parents, because they just wanted to understand what they can do to make it better for their children. Absolutely. If you're willing, me too, I'm willing.
That's
Let's
beautiful.
go.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being here.
You're welcome. Thanks for inviting me.
Guys, thanks for listening to another episode of Black British Parent. And Priscilla Scylla
Scylla,
from
yes.
Stepmums Club. Thank you for being a fantastic and amazing guest.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you for sharing your insights and your experiences. And I hope that families can learn a lot from what you've had to share. Both dads, mums, birth, step, whatever the case may be, aunties, uncles. And please let our listeners know how they can get in touch.
Yes. So if you go on Instagram and type in the Stepmums Club, that's MUMS, not MOMS, but not in America. You'll find me there. And yeah, to be honest, if you really want to get a hold of me, send me an email, because I'm on that all day, every day. But before then, you might just catch me in the media somewhere, or in your workplace. Can I just say, I am pivoting. So not only am I a coach, but also I'm now hosting talks in the corporate space. So if you are a stepmom at work and you feel like there should be some policies, procedures, or safeguarding for you as a working parent, like there is for, you know, members of LGBTQ, adoptive parents, fostering parents, mums, and of course, praise God, dads also that are getting fairer rights. Let me know. I'll come to your workplace and I'll talk to your people then, because essentially that is what I'm doing. And
Brilliant.
you know, one day I'm really hoping that, you know, like it used to be a dream for mums and dads to have, you know, policies that help them and enable them to be parents and be productive members of their household and still show up fully at work, that there'll be policies for step parents also, who are found 1 in every 3rd household in the UK. There's like 54,000 step parents, and statistically, men move on to new relationships quicker than women do. So that means there are more stepmoms than there are stepdads in the UK alone.
Goodness.
Let's not even talk about globally.
Goodness.
So, yeah.
And just something I did want to mention before, but I forgot to add it before we quickly wrap up. But I kept talking about quickly wrapping up. The concept as well that I guess in some ways I was a bit nervous about talking about blended families or addressing it under the guise of Black British parent, because it's assumed that it's mostly Black families that abandon.
Yes,
Do you get what I mean?
Yes.
And
that is a topic.
It's something that perhaps we can have a later conversation about. But my point is that it made me nervous about having these kinds of conversations, because obviously it's assumed.
Don't perpetuate stereotypes.
But when I looked at the research and all the work that's gone into, they're only talking about non-Black folk.
Yep.
And their experiences and how they go about dealing with it is very different to how we've kind of evolved through it. Or do you get what I mean? Some of the nuances, it's interesting.
Absolutely. And this is why I believe that the majority of my clients are Black or brown, because they, and this is not ego, I'm trying to tell you, they were waiting for someone that looked like me, right? I remember I had this one client, she was an Asian Muslim woman. Everyone that follows me properly, you know I'm a Christian. I'm not a Muslim at all. But she figured that this Black Christian woman is going to be able to understand my Asian Muslim lifestyle, livelihood, far closer than a white woman. Do you understand?
I'm not
That's
surprised,
how
but it's interesting. Yeah.
Women of color, brown women are needing people. And can I just add as well, she was dating a white man.
Gosh.
Yeah?
Gosh, that just took my breath away.
So when she told me that, my reaction already let her know, you get it.
Yeah.
But when she told her therapist, what's the problem? I don't get it.
Yeah.
Maybe your parents are bigots or something. Like maybe they're racist. No, honey.
No way.
You took it too far. Like you know, and this is why culture comes into it as well.
Yeah.
Religion comes into it as well. So many things to consider. It's not just about, oh yeah, my baby daddy got with this next girl, now everybody's vexed. It's too simplistic. There's so many layers. And in all of these layers that you explore, it really breaks a person down. Yeah, to the point where stepmoms are, some of them are clinically depressed, like on meds, like their mental health gone. It's not a mental health issue. They've now got a mental health illness because they fell in love. Are you sure?
Yes,
It's wild. But
very wild. Until next time, with more interesting experiences and conversations, take care.